Hi, I'm here today to talk to you about your teen and their health. Does your teen know how to tell if they really are sick or they're just having an off day? Hi, I'm Melanie from Parenting High Schoolers, and I'm here again today to talk about when your kid is really sick, do they know what that feels like? So that seems like a silly question, but here's the thing. We have been around their whole lives to feel their heads, to, take their pulse, to listen to their breathing, to just do that mom look. Like if I do a once over with my kids, I can tell they're pale. I can tell their eyes are kind of glassy. I can just see that they don't feel good. But a lot of times when I ask that question, do you feel okay, honey? They haven't even realized that they don't feel that great. So here's some tips for getting your kid out the door with some basic health information. So first of all, does your child know what their regular, healthy, everyday temperature is? So this is a really good thing to know because, for instance, all of my kids, including and myself, run low. So a normal person is supposed to be 98.6, but we all run about 97.6 or even lower. This is something that we have just kind of figured out over time as they've gotten over illnesses. I used to worry that their temperature was too low, but I just realized that the baseline temperature for them is about 97.4. So your kids need to know what is their baseline, because a lot of places like schools won't send them home if they have less than 100 temperature, unless they have more than 100 temperature. But if your kid is starting from below a 98.6 temp, by the time it gets to 100, they really don't feel good. So that's the first thing. What is their regular, everyday, healthy temperature? You might want to write it on an index card for them to put in a little first aid kit so that they know if their temp is running anything more than 99.9, 100, they're really probably something's wrong. Okay, that's the other thing. It's like, what is wrong? They need to be able to self-assess. Is their head aching? Is it their ear? Is it their stomach? Is it a combination? And what should they take to help alleviate this problem? So they need to know. Tums is for like an upset, gassy stomach. Obviously they probably know what Advil is for, but have some over-the-counter meds in a box for your kids when they leave your home so that as symptoms occur, they can call you and say, Mom, well, this is happening. And you can say, well, this is in your box and this is what you need. Are there some things that they take to stay healthy? Are they on a multivitamin? Do they take elderberry juice or chewies or whatever? A lot of kids take some things regularly, and this would be something that either you need to remind them to maybe order more from Amazon, or you're going to send them more as the time comes. What do they need to take regularly, and are they good about taking it? Do you need to get them a pill box and show them, once a week or, once a month, depending on how big the box is? Like, I just sit out one evening. It takes me about 15 minutes, and when the kids were little, I did this because in the morning it saved me so much time with all their vitamins and different, if any of them were sick or whatever, I just only had to think about it one time a week or whatever. One thing that your kids need to think about if they're going away is if they have a regular meds. Like I had a son on Adderall. He had a bad attention problem. And so this was something he needed to get through school. Well, he had friends and other people wanting that medicine from him. They said, well, buy it, whatever. He had to start locking it up because he came home one day and it was just gone. So be sure your kids have some kind of a safe in their dorm room or their apartment, because even if these are really good friends, like they might just take one. Well, then your son or daughter is short at the end of their time of needing meds. And that's going to look bad on them, on your kid. You need to be sure that they protect their meds at all costs. And I would say that's true of, almost, anything that, I know there's some drugs that are locked up at the drugstore. So if your kids are on any of that kind of allergy stuff with the pseudoephedrine, or I don't know if I'm saying that right, but if they're on any kind of thing like that, it also needs to be locked up just as if it were a drugstore. Okay, Do your kids, I think this is kind of going back to what I said a minute ago, make sure they know what to take and how much they take when they don't feel good. So if they have just an upset stomach after just kind of a big meal, maybe a couple Tums is all it'll take to clear that up. Now, if it is ongoing, like at what point do they need to decide, okay, this is more than something I ate? So you need to kind of help them that last year or two at home, sort of gauge symptoms, how bad they feel. Now say, remember the next time you feel like this, it was more than just, gas or whatever. So these are things to kind of talk through with your child, because when they're going to the doctor, of course, once they're 18, you're really kind of out of the loop. They need to be able to communicate with their doctor. These are the meds that I'm on. Maybe have that on a piece of paper, because if they need to call a doctor on the campus where they are located, or if they've moved out of town, let's say they've graduated from college, a lot of teens don't even know that they may have had an allergy as a small child. So any of that medical history stuff should be in their records. But you might let them know, all three of my boys are amoxicillin resistant. They're not allergic to it. They just had built up they had so many ear infections that it stopped working. And then two of my kids ended up being really, really sick because this antibiotic wasn't working, and they got sicker. Those are things that they should know. Basic first aid. Make sure they have Band-Aids, make sure they have some sort of an antibiotic cream, maybe they have an anti-itch stick. These are all basic things for your kids to have in just a first aid. I got a tub for each of my kids, and I put things in that I thought they might need. So these would be things that most people think is common sense, but again, we've done so much of this for our kids up until now that as they're leaving, you might just sort of tape a piece of paper to the inside to the lid, and these are what you would use for this, and just look at the dosage. And I mean, they're just one of my boys, airhead, didn't know I could read the bottle and it'll tell me how many to take, how often to take it, all that kind of stuff. So these are things I did for him, and I should have started letting him kind of know those kinds of things. Numbers. So if your child goes to college in your hometown, then they're lucky. They can get a hold of their dentist and their doctor and their optometrist or whoever easily. But if they're going away, this would be probably, a lot of campuses have health clinics, which is awesome, and that will be a great way for them to go to school. But maybe they need glasses. Maybe that's not set up at the campus where they're at. I know my son that went to a tiny liberal arts college not far away, he was able to come home. But if he had been at that college far away from us, we would have needed to sort of look into healthcare for him there, because I think they had a first aid clinic on their campus, and that was about it. So be sure you think through all of these things. If they need contacts, are they, maybe they need to set an alarm on their phone for a certain date to remind themselves to contact their optometrist to get more. And I say this, my husband's an optometrist, and he'll get frantic calls from kids, and they ran out yesterday. So if they could be a little more prepared, this is helpful for all involved. Does your son or daughter have a medical power of attorney? This is huge. I've had a friend, I've had more than one friend, but one story that sticks in my head is her son had a appendectomy. It was an emergency situation, and they were not even allowed any information because they had not set up any of this ahead of time. And once your child turns 18, all of this is out of your hands. It's completely on them. So thankfully, everything turned out fine. That's all that was needed. They got there in time, and he recovered, and there were no, emergency situations. It wasn't a life-death situation, although it, very well could have been. I actually just experienced my son passing out, driving, of all things. He was at a stoplight, and he knew he was going to pass out, was actually on the phone with my husband. And my husband said, you need to put your car in park. And he did, and he passed out. And when he came to, my husband was yelling at him on the phone. Cars were honking, and Kent said, please just go through the light and then pull off the road. And he did, and he passed out again. It turns out he was dehydrated and had not eaten. How are you a young man and you don't eat? But all that to say that I was able to race over to where he was and I met the firemen and the paramedics and all of that. My husband was out of town, and they still would not talk to me because we didn't have the power of attorney on us. Be sure that this is something that you check into. I will put a link below to a great resource, Mama Bear Legal Forms, and they will take care of all of this. All you have to do is input your information, and the price is so reasonable. So please be sure you do this for especially the medical power of attorney. It's definitely something you want to talk to your kids about once they turn 18, because you want to be part of all of the decisions that are made, or at least privy to the conversation. Okay, that's what I have to say today about health in your teenager. Like my video below, and I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. Again, it's Melanie from Parenting High Schoolers. I hope you have a great day.